This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
I've kind of been thinking a bit about amps at the moment, and I was thinking today, like, is there sort of a perfect amp collection that you have in mind, or like any sort of goals that you have in mind, or like sort of amps that you'd like to own? And I was thinking today about, I've got 3 amps that I used in this intro coming up: a Deluxe Reverb, a Rift Dexter, which is a Matchless Lightning, which is a Vox AC15 type circuit, and then a Fender Dirty Shirley Clone from Headfirst, which is like a Marshall JTM 45 type circuit. Could that be a decent collection of amps? So the thinking here is, in the past I used to have like a lot of multi-channel amplifiers and stuff like that, and then I don't know, for some reason I fell out of love with them. I think I like read a lot of stuff online about them being unreliable, and then you sort of try some of these other amps and you think, like, you know, is there a character all of its own in these types of amps? Now, how I've ended up here with these 3 amps is a bit of a weird one, but the Rift was basically just, Rift amplifiers were clearing out a chassis for £150, and I thought I quite like the idea of trying a Matchless Lightning clone. It's got 6v6 tubes in it, bear that in mind. Then we've got the Headfirst Dirty Shirley, sorry. I was checking out the Friedman actual pedal, you know, the Dirty Shirley pedal, and I really enjoyed that, and I was like, that's actually doing some really cool things. And when I saw this on eBay for like 450 quid, I thought, well, that'd be worth a go, right? It's got Hammond transformers in it, seems decent. Also 6v6 tubes. And then, of course, behind me here there's a Fender Deluxe Reverb, which is a 2020 it's a 22 watt 1965 reissue, nothing particularly special, and that came up nearby for £850. I thought I'd like to try a deluxe reverb. So what I've ended up with here is essentially 3 6v6 amps, but from the sort of 3 keyed food groups, right? You've got your Fender, you got your Vox, you got your Marshall. I did wonder, is the Vox type circuit and the Marshall type circuit going to sound particularly distinct, given that they're going through the same power tubes? So I did kind of try this out, and here's what happened.
I haven't tried this for a while, but I was noticing that the Headfirst was quite smooth in the gain. I think if I gunned the Lightning, that is pretty goosey still. I don't think it'd be that normal to run a Vox style amp like that though, right? Probably more likely in that turf. Meanwhile, does the Headfirst, so this is like a Dirty Shirley style amp, does that feel meaningfully different? Let's kind of try that. So I've got the gain all the way up here, the volume most of the way up. Definitely stays smoother in the top end. The volume all the way. That's got a kind of more liquid feel to it, so a little bit more suited to that kind of singing. Not that you couldn't do something like that with the Vox style amp either.
So I think for me the Dirty Shirley type, JTM 45 type, does seem a little bit more suited to that smoother sort of gain, like a bit more mid-range, whereas the Vox is a bit more bitey and maybe a bit more scoopy and you know sizzly in the top end. So there are some differences that I'm noticing. I guess in the perfect collection you might aim for actually having like the 3 kind of key types of power tube covered as well, right? You probably aim for like an EL34 here, aim for maybe an EL84 for your Vox type, and then of course a deluxe reverb would be 6v6s, or above that you might have 6L6s. I guess this Pro reverb is 6L6s, right? do you feel like power tubes make as much of a difference once you start really goosing them like this? So I've got these, like, because they're master volume amps, I tend to have the master volumes run super high, particularly through this load box. Then I think you're going to get some of that power amp saturation, and so you're probably going to get some of that coloration. I guess with the master volumes down lower, maybe it would make less of a difference. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is that something valid to you? Of course, there are loads of different candidates in each sort of realm. So if you're going for something Vox AC15-ish, you've of course got a Vox AC15, perfectly valid. Morgan AC20, got the Bad Cat stuff, which I've recently got to check out as well, very much in that Vox sort of vein. Got Matchless, so, you know, say if you were in Nashville or a session player, like a lot of those guys are using like a Matchless DC30 or HC30. In the head format, probably there's a bunch of guys out there with Marshall Plexis that are playing on records, and Deluxe Reverb is a perfectly useful amp. In studio, I've noticed that quite a lot of people are using like 65, 64 Bassmans. So it is basically these food groups, but maybe different versions, maybe scaled up in terms of tubes. At home or on a gig, for me, 20 watts 6v6s is actually kind of a little bit of a sweet spot. The only issue is with this Dirty Shirley style circuit, it doesn't have enough clean headroom to do like a clean gig. The Vox AC15 style circuit, or Matchless Lightning in this case with the master, does have enough clean headroom to get through a gig, like a session function gig, and the Deluxe Reverb is perfect for me for gigging with a Strat or a Telly or anything like that, as oodles of headroom, like a absolutely perfect gigging amp. Would you go down like a more multi-channel amp route, or would you go for having 3 distinct amps in this kind of way? How do you think about this? Would one amp be better for you, one multi-channel amp, or one super expensive, like, good version of one of these things? These are relatively, I guess if you bought them new, like Dirty Shirley would be, well, quite a bit more than I paid. The Rift, I think they're charging $2 grand for that. Of course, a Vox AC15 is about 700-ish. A Deluxe Reverb, you can pick them up used for about $1 grand. So these aren't necessarily like the highest expensive thing in the world, but I think they're doing quite interesting things for me, and it's just something I hadn't really thought about, that suddenly now I've got like a bunch of the food groups covered. Is that what you want in a collection? Let me know your thoughts. How many amps would you own if money was no object, or would you try and pare things down? Love to know your thoughts. Cheers for stopping by, and it's dark.